Okay, so I'll just take a pause and come back. So basically, chatbots are nothing but a combination of machine learning and artificial intelligence. And chatbots are nothing but, it is supposed to understand what a user is asking it to do in a human understandable language. Uh, and chatbot will do the rest of the work where it has to convert it into, how it needs to interpret it and so on and so forth, right? So that is what chatbot means at the crux of it, right? So you can read up whatever is on the screen. So I'll be just talking about it in general and giving you more details than what will be visible for you on the presentation. So what does chatbot do apart from it, right? How does it work and so on and so forth? See, there are three layers to it, right? The first layer is, I will start from the bottom up. First layer is the machine itself, right? You can consider your laptops or any devices for that matter. On top of it, we build a layer. That layer is built by humans itself. It's not going to be built by chatbots or these tools as such. It is a human built layer where we instruct the application or the hardware or the code to say that, if Akhil is saying hi, you are supposed to understand it as hi, meaning, let's say, you need to greet Akhil, right? So hi means you're greeting someone, right? So we are teaching the chatbot what to do and how to do, right? It's as simple as teaching ABCD or teaching grammar to a human being, right? A baby rather. I wouldn't say a human being. I would rather say a baby here. Whenever we put our kids to school, when they are at a certain age, we allow them to understand what are languages. We allow them to understand alphabets, grammar, X, Y, and Z. They understand hi means greeting. They understand what does anger mean, and so on and so forth, right? So uh, that is the kind of learning that we enable the middle layer with. Now, why we are doing that is important, right? So, and how much we are doing. So we can't obviously, there are billions of people in the world, there are trillions, actually more than trillions. So you can't teach everything and everyone that you are aware of. For example, I am not aware of French, I am not aware of Russian languages, right? So I can teach the bot how much I am aware of. So it is limited to that information. The same way, any platforms who are allowing us to create these chatbots at the end of the day are limited to what they can actually teach the chatbot, right? So and you can't always keep on teaching it, today you will teach it Russian, tomorrow you will teach it French, and so on and so forth. You can't keep doing that. It is not an easy process. It takes a lot of time to even teach just one language. So don't think it's that easy, right? So that is the only reason why what most of the companies do is they train the middle layer with machine learning, right? So machine learning is like a tool. It's like it's like an acting human being, or a clone, you can call it in a way. So we are just trying to give it information and making it understand that this is what this means, that is what that means in X, Y, and Z. And the rest of it keeps on learning by default, right? It is its core habit that it has to keep on learning. Whenever some new information is passed to it, it will keep on learning automatically, even if it is not aware, even if the instructions are different. I'll probably explain it in the next one or two steps. But the feeding is important, and the learning is part of the machine learning's work, right? So now, just jumping quickly to the next slide. So how many types of chatbot are there, right? Uh, we generally have categorized it into 5 as of now. So we have FAQ bots, we have button-based bots, we have contextual bots, personal assistant voice bots, and autonomous organization of assistants. So I'll come to one, each of them. So FAQs are let's say the one example that I think Manpreet was saying, I'm not sure, the HDFC one, or most of the banks which have activated bots on their platform currently, are a combination of one, two. Lesser number of them have three involved, but mostly the first two. Even for example, if any of you have ever used Swiggy in the past 1 year, and have noticed ever going to the help section, if you guys have ever noticed, you would have seen button-based bots. It's not even an FAQ bot. They don't allow you to type until you have finished all the buttons, clicking on all the respective buttons, right? So it's a combination of one and two, because context-based bots is where the difficulty starts, and nobody wants to take a risk with their reputation right now. So not a lot of them opt for it, because it takes, one, a lot of training to be done. Two, people people like us, or I won't say us actually, because I'm a developer. I develop chatbots, so I won't call myself, I won't put myself in that category. But there are people who don't want random answers to be thrown at them, right? Because I'm a developer, I'm saying this, but people don't like random answers being thrown at them. When the chatbot is not able to understand, it should tell it's not able to understand and assign it to a human being. But what happens in general is, not a lot of companies are willing to take that risk, or they are not willing to, bring a hybrid system where if the chatbot is not capable, they hand over it to the human being. So a lot of cost related things are involved in this. A lot of personal branding things are involved in it, and so on and so forth. So because of that reason, they try not to opt for the third one, and they plan to give it time. How do they give it time? I'll come to that in a minute. So let me just finish the first part, right? So what are Q&A bots? Q&A bots are nothing but, let's say, if, for example, right? So if you go to a product tomorrow, I open a FAQs page, right? I think some of us have ever probably gone to some FAQ page to understand what they are asking, and so on and so forth. So what happens after that is, in that FAQ page, you probably find an answer for your question, but you had to spend time to go to the website, go to the FAQ, and then, check, probably scroll through all the questions and then find out which question you have, right? So that causes a bit of a, challenge in a way, right? So it wastes your time as well. So what companies have done is, on their websites, they bring in a small chatbot, and they code all the questions, the FAQ questions that they have, into the chatbot. Now that they don't even have page restrictions where, let's say if I had thousands of FAQs, it would be difficult for me to go through all of them. So what they have done now is, this chatbot can easily do something like that. So let's say if I'm typing a question today, it can easily go back, check through the database, and get back to you with the proper response that you require. Not a lot of hassle, not a lot of complication, because you're not asking a, another follow-up question to it probably, right? So that is the intention for Q&A bot. That is the first thing that chatbots, when it came up in the first place, that was the first problem that, people were trying to solve. Then coming to the next one, to make it more interactive, right? So just to make the FAQ bot more interactive, what happened is, they decided that, let's do something like this. Probably someone doesn't want to type the entire question. They want to probably just click on a button, because they are aware that this is the same question that I need to ask. So let me just click on the button, right? So now the question is, how do you decide? You can't obviously write hundreds of buttons as soon as you open the chatbot. Probably you guys would have seen HDFC Bank does that bit, right? So I'll actually bring some of those screens up to you as well. Give me a second. I don't want it to be just presentations. Give me a second. Yeah. Where am I? Let me present my full screen. Yeah. So now if you see here, you have ask Da, I guess. So I don't know when will it load. Okay. So these are the buttons that have come up. So these buttons, so you guys are able to see the screen, right? Yeah, I think yes. So what generally happens here is they decide on all the common questions or generics. For example, whenever we develop a website, we have these menus come in, right? So you can say some of these menus have been converted into these questions in a way, so that it is easy for all of us to navigate. One is buy now. If I want to buy anything, I know I need to just click on it, and then it is going to again ask me the next set of buttons. So they have created a flow around this button this time, so that, let's say, the way we have menus, they have nothing but done with buttons over here. That is the only difference. So let's say if I go here and I click on this drop down, they show me these things. So probably if I click on this drop down, it will show me something of that sort. So we have a health, two-wheeler, four-wheeler, home, Arogya Sanjeevani, right? So probably some of these things have been removed from it because, let's say, they're assuming, I'm just saying they're assuming, probably tractor insurance, if I want to buy, I will not be using the chatbot, right? So probably either I am a company or I'm from someone probably from a village. So with that assumption, they would have decided this. So they come up with things of that sort. They come up with such logics where they avoid to display certain things which are not relevant, and assuming that those people are not going to use it. Because uh, be aware that it's not necessarily that this is the logic that the companies will apply. They use data to do this. So these kind of bots, at least HDFC has put it live almost since 2 years, close to now, 2 to 3 years. So based on who and how users are opting for the chatbot, based on that data as well, these questions are being filtered out. I have done that myself for one or two companies. So, that is how I am aware that these things happen, right? So now, if you see here, again, they have asked for two more buttons. I have not typed anything. I still do have an option, but I'm not typed anything. So when I type two-wheeler, again, two more questions. Instead of typing anything, again, two more questions. So this is actually saving my time, wherein I don't have to type two-wheeler. By the time I type two-wheeler, I would have clicked on it and waited for its response, right? So that is nothing but what we are talking about here, right? So that is your whole button based bots, right? So button based bots was a combination of one and two. Now coming to the context bots, right? So this is where the complication comes in, and this is where the human ness of the bot comes in, right? So where you are asking the question and you're waiting for the chatbot to respond, probably with the question itself, but it is trying to, get more information from you in an interactive way, so that you don't feel that you're talking to a bot. Because what generally happens is, this is also something that I want all of you to understand. Some of them, obviously, seeing all the news of these Facebook and Google trying to put their bots together in conversation, and the bots talking about world destruction and apocalypse and stuff like that, it scares a lot of people, right? Even people from higher up in the industry to the lower people, who are on the ground, like us right now, for example, right? So everybody gets scared because of such things. So not a lot of them are comfortable talking to a chatbot, to be frank. Even now, there are people who probably get spooked from it, right? Saying, dude, this chatbot is asking me a lot of questions right now. I don't know why. Is it asking for itself, or someone has hacked it, or so on and so forth, right? So things of that sort, people get spooked by. So that's why what we generally try to do is we try to make the conversation a bit more friendly. And two things I would like to add here. The first thing is that sentiments are very important, and a lot of ways sentiments are important, because if a user, let's say, I'll take myself for example. If I'm not in a proper state of mind right now, and I want to get some information out of a company and they are not receiving calls, I opt for a chatbot and I'm trying to ask questions to it. And when it is not able to respond, I am a bit aggressive, right? So if I'm a bit aggressive at that time and I'm screwing the bot, I'm just throwing stupid things at it and I'm scolding the chatbot as if it is a human. And if nobody's coming in middle and interrupting and taking the conversation forward, and when I say someone is not interrupting, I mean someone from the company whose chatbot is, whom with whom I'm having a conversation right now. If some customer representative from their team is not interacting at that particular moment with me, there is a possibility I might not opt for the company at all. I would probably, even if it is a health insurance company whose insurance I have already purchased, I might not opt for them at all. I will probably just skip them and move to a different company just because of that experience I had with them, probably at in that mindset, right? Because that is going to be very important, because you can't say that, hey, you know what, anyways I lost this customer, it's fine, he was anyway stupid. Yes, I mean, if that company is so big that it doesn't care about one customer, it's fine. But who knows, there can be 10, 15 such customers, right? What happens in that case? So they can't take a risk like that. That's why a lot of companies do not have these kind of chatbots, even Swiggy for that matter, right? I think they have a lot of money. They can build these bots. They have a lot of good resources as well, I'm pretty sure. So they could have built these bots, pretty easily in probably in the last year or so. Who knows, they might even be doing that, but they are taking time to make sure that these things are, they provide a better user experience to the user so that they don't lose on customers. That is going to be an important factor. So context-based bots are nothing but bots which are having conversation with you and giving you a human presence as if you are interacting with a human being. That's the only difference here, at least from a user's perspective. Then we talk about personal assistants and personal assistant voice bots, right? So here, what we are doing is we are having a completely personalized conversation. This is nothing but your iPhone's Siri, your Alexa, if you have one at home, or a Google Home device, or I mean a Google Assistant if you have a Google Assistant at home. These are your personal assistant voice bots, right? So it can be voice, it can be text, either one of them, but these are personalized. So these are specific to you. They are connected to specifically only your accounts. They can access data from your accounts on your permission, that is. And that is how they interact with you in such a way that, let's say, for example, you tell Alexa that, please play the playlist from last week. So it will probably check what is the last week's playlist and get back to you. But how is it able to do that? It is able to do that because it has your personal data, uh, access to your personal data, right? Because it's like sitting on top of your personal data to make sure you get your personal data easily. For example, right now, I have a hard disk, ton of data. For me, it is hard to search it, probably find it, and things of that sort. So you can say there is a personal assistant sitting on top of my hard disk right now, and if I ask her to do something, uh, it goes and fetches whatever is necessary from the data and gets it back, right? So that is nothing but your personal assistant. Obviously, one thing to understand here is it's not easy to configure these things. So there is a lot of coding that is generally done across these things. Let's say when we talk about personal assistants, let me add on one or two details over here. Alexa comes, for example, I'll talk about Alexa. Alexa comes with a lot of applications on it, right? So Alexa comes like a mobile application, like Alexa is something like a operating system, like Android, for example. The way you can install a lot of applications on Android, the same way you can install a lot of applications on Alexa, which are Alexa specific, right? So, for example, there are applications like Play Me Ramayan. There are applications which will allow you to play audiobooks from Audible. There are apps that allow you to do a lot more, right? You can play games on Alexa, and so on and so forth, right? So a lot of such things are there on Alexa. And if you keep on developing skills on Alexa, you have a great opportunity over there as well, right? Okay. So and then coming to the last part here, autonomous organization of assistants. This is the next level of chatbot, right? So what generally happens is, this is mostly, you can say, an enterprise level chatbot, or you can also call it actually I'll leave it at enterprise level. I'll tell you why I'm saying this. In an enterprise, enterprises are very big. Even two departments generally don't talk to each other unless there is a dependency on them. And whenever there is a dependency, it's mostly over emails. They try to resolve it, and it again takes a lot of time to get things resolved, right? Even, let's say, for example, there is testing department separate, there is development department separate, but in our team, in our teams generally, you're probably sitting right next to the tester or the developer, right? So it gets difficult for organizations, departments in an in an enterprise organization to interact with each other. So at that particular point in time, what generally happens is, transferring or fetching information takes a hell lot of time. So to avoid all that, you have these autonomous organization of bots, which are going to interact with each other as and when required, so that I get my information at time. That is what autonomous organization of assistance mean. And Rasa is who came up with this term. And Rasa is, you can say, is I've not added it to my list, which I'll show further, but Rasa is one such company who's doing brilliantly in this chatbot space. I'll tell you what those are at the in the coming this one. But you can take a look at Rasa at a later point. But this is what basically the types of chatbots refer to. Now let me just go to the next one. Yeah. So I've probably not given you a decent list of benefits, but so one is reach more customers. For example, today, the way, let's say, if I need to set up a bakery, right? Or I'm starting from my home, I'm setting up like a cupcake business or a baking business from home, and I want to try to reach or reach more customers, let me put it that way. So what is my general way right now? If I'm starting from home, one is Instagram, second is Facebook. And if I have Instagram and Facebook, my friends are going to help me with the rest of the things. But I want to reach more, because friends can also give me limited, income or benefits, right? Uh, I put up my website, but website has its SEOs and so on and so forth. And probably this is my side business. I'm not doing this with my office work, right? So then it becomes difficult for me if someone is trying to reach out to me during office hours and I'm not able to cater to them, right? So to handle all such scenarios, probably if you introduce a chatbot, you can put a chatbot on Messenger as well. You can put a chatbot on Instagram as well, and let the chatbot interact and take these orders. And you just have to prepare them at home and send it to them probably the next day or by the end of the week, and so on and so forth. Right now, a lot of people who have these side hustles that they are doing, they're using these chatbots itself right now to deliver a lot of their day-to-day activities, to get orders, package orders, and send them, and things of that sort, right? So all that automation they have started up, they're doing it from a year or so now, and it is actually helping them a lot, right? So increase user interaction. So let's say today I go to a product website, like for example HDFC itself, right? So when we went to this HDFC's website, you can't really do much on the website, right? So chatbot comes in and it's trying to interact with you and trying to understand what you need. Like, let's say I go to the website today, I ask for, I need health insurance. So it is pretty vague. So chatbot is going to ask what type of health insurance, what benefit are you looking for, and so on and so forth. So it will keep on asking me questions to understand what I really need, and suggest me something similar, right? So that is what is called an interaction. But on the website, you yourself have to search for it, and searching takes a lot of time because websites have a hell lot of data. And I personally do not prefer reading through the website. If they have a chatbot, I prefer that. If they don't, I probably won't, right? So as simple as that. At least that is my personal opinion. And right, so that is they try to add these chatbots so that interaction can happen. They feel, the users feel that okay, there is someone who is helping me understand what is beneficial for me to opt for, and so on. And okay, I think I like this experience. Just because of this experience, I might even opt for to take a product, right? So that is one more reason why companies opt for it. Now, third one is provide data to customers that come from various data sources. Now, again, right? So this, you can call it probably specific to. Okay, let me. I can't actually make it specific anymore because I'll give you two examples here. So one example is enterprise, right? So in enterprise, what generally happens is to just get one information, you need to collect information probably from two departments, because the information that you are looking for, it is actually in two departments. One part of it is in one and the other part is in the other. And the response that you want is like a calculation to be done over this data, and then it has to be sent to me. So for that reason, you can't really send emails to these two departments, get the information, and then sit and calculate, right? So to avoid all that, what they generally do is they set up a chatbot which whose responsibility is to fetch data from the database from these two departments, whichever system they are in, and it will do the calculation in the backend itself, and then it will respond to the user. So no human intervention is required here apart from actually asking the question. So you ask the question, you get the data within seconds, not even a minute. You don't even have to wait for 30 seconds or more. Probably if the chatbots are slow, that is a different thing. But mostly you will get it in five to 10 seconds max, right? So this is one such example where, where the data is coming from different sources. So I'm not sure how many of you have seen, but there is there is a chatbot that has come on WhatsApp, and it's called, I think, Infobot or something of that sort. I forgot the name. It is a COVID specific bot. And if you go and ask it questions today regarding, bed availability, or, regarding, let's say, vaccine, probably not vaccination, bed availability or oxygen, right? So uh, these people might be managing data currently at a central repository or something, but they might have two to three different databases that the information is coming from, because information has to be verified whenever information is coming through these platforms. So again, it is going to various systems. It is verifying if the data is accurate or not, and then it is trying to send that information to the customer. So there are these two variations of how data is coming from different data sources, right? And then you have quick responses, like I explained, and then you come to the 24/7 availability. Okay, let me add or combine the next three points together. 24/7 availability, save time and reduced overhead to mundane tasks. Let's talk about call centers, right? Uh, a lot of call centers, I'm not sure how many of you would have noticed this, but a lot of centers have been shut down probably since the past year. If not shut down, their numbers have been reduced because of the chatbot. Let me be precise or blunt here. It is because a lot of call centers' work was to be available on the online chat to support the customer as and when required. May it be a website-based chatbot, may it be a backend, ticket supporting chatbot or whatsoever, right? Even airlines, for that matter, a lot of these companies who had call centers enabled, they have reduced their numbers so that one, they don't have to, bring in people to cover all the three shifts at least, They would have said, okay, now I don't want 3 shifts, I want only 2 shifts. The other two, we will put in chatbots over there. We will see how it is responding probably for the first 2 months. And then accordingly, we will keep on replacing or reducing the number of people. So why do they do that are 3 to 4 reasons. One, uh, the company itself is able to save a lot of money. I'll give you one example. Let's say today I have 10 employees and I'm paying 18,000 to them, right? Or let me keep a normal number, that is 10,000. If I'm paying 10,000 to them, so I'm almost spending what, 1 lakh, right? So 1 lakh for 10. Imagine, if okay, let's keep the same number. Let's say 1 lakh, right? For 10. Now consider 3 batches, right? So in 3 batches, you have more, 2 more batches, you have 10 more. So per month, you can say there are 30 employees and you're spending 3 lakhs per month. Imagine, that is for 1 month. If you take an year, that number goes to, sorry, yeah, that number goes to 15 lakhs, 60,000 or something. So imagine here, let's say even if I'm cutting down just 10 people, right? Just 10 people. So it's 20 people per month and 2 lakhs per month, right? So I'm actually 2 lakhs per month. If I take, it's, sorry, I think I calculated it wrong. My bad. So it's 36 lakhs per year. And yeah, 36 lakhs. So let's say reduce it, right? If you reduce it to 20 people, you will be paying 24 lakhs. So it's almost a 10 to 12 lakh of a gap that you have easily over there. Imagine I as a company would be willing to take that decision where I'm able to save 12 lakhs so that I can make sure that I'm profitable, and I'm also making sure the employees, the rest of the employees are also being compensated accordingly, right? So a lot of company, and here I'm taking only 30, right? So here I'm taking only 30. Imagine there are MNCs, there are businesses who have 100 to 1,000 of employees working on call centers right now. Imagine the amount that they are spending, and imagine the amount that they would be saving right now by adding these chatbots at the end of the day. I won't say it is good or bad, but at the end of the day, if you're getting a better opportunity over the over call centers, I think any day people would prefer that. But okay, so now just coming to that, it gives you availability because it is a normal website like system which is set up online, so it is always available for anybody to come at 12 a.m. or 12 p.m. and you ask a question and the chatbot will be willing to respond if it has the necessary data. Save time, like I said, you don't have to wait for others to get back to you with data, no human dependencies. So automatically, if the data is available in the backend, you don't have to wait. If you ask a question to the chatbot, it will respond to your queries immediately. Reducing overheads is nothing but okay, let me add a slightly different view here as well. So what generally happens in these call centers is you have a manager also here, right? So the manager is, seeing all the employees. It is, that person is also trying to go through the recordings to understand how this employee is speaking to the, customer and so on and so forth, right? So that person is doing that kind of a job. But there is another person who is probably trying to create reports, and trying to generate reports while they are doing their calls and so on and so forth. So here what can happen is these people can automate some of the work that they are doing in such a way that, let's say, if they are currently not much productive because they have to do extra work, some of that work can be automated. Let's say, for example, this particular person doesn't have to take calls anymore. Chatbot will do its part over there, right? So if chatbot is doing its part, this person just has to sit and create these complex reports that probably the manager wants or the company wants, or let's say the CEO wants, right? Or some of these reports can be also automated in such a way that chatbot itself will do that in the backend, and it itself will send an email to the manager or the CEO whenever they require it, right? So some of these overheads can be removed from these employees or even humans for us, like for that matter, and it will do all the work. For example, a simple such example is you can actually book an Uber from your Alexa. You don't have to go to your app, select on these buttons and so on and so forth. You can go to Alexa and just ask it to book you an Uber, and it'll do so, right? So some of those mundane things you can let these bots handle on a day-to-day basis, right? So I mean, there is a whole list of it. I can keep on going, so I'll just stop here because I think we are already running out of time. Let me just quickly say, okay, so I'll just jump in quickly for the next few steps, okay? So this is nothing but a basic high-level architecture. So this is probably for some of these technical people who are here as well. So let me probably start from here itself. So this is a user. We have a messaging platform like Messenger, Slack, and so on. So let's say, for example, I was talking about this WhatsApp bot. Let's say, I have opened my WhatsApp and I pose the question. What will happen is this question will go to the machine learning system, and from immediately from machine learning system it will split the information, meaning what is needed, what is not. I'll probably explain that to you in the next few steps, but it will extract the information that it requires. It will send it to this bot logic that is there. Machine learning will take it as a logic for its training purpose for a later stage, and then this bot logic will basically send the collected information here. Now what will happen is, whatever logic is there, it will send the respective API calls. For example, if someone like here, right, post the last 3 pictures I took on Facebook. So what it is going to do here is it will come here, it will understand what it was supposed to do, and that is post. It is going to, let's say, call, for example, this API saying post to Instagram, right? So this system will post it to Instagram. That's it. Now that is the action that is taking. So this action is going to be invoked, and my 3 pictures from Facebook will be posted to Instagram. But let's say a different scenario is there. So a different scenario is, I'm just taking a random example here. Let's say Swiggy comes on WhatsApp, it is providing its chatbot on WhatsApp. So I have an issue on one of my orders. So I will come in today. I will say I have a issue on my last order, latest order. So it'll come here, it'll understand here. Probably, the bot is not able to respond. So I say I need to speak to the customer representative. So it will come here to the bot logic. It knows what it needs to do. It will come here. It will go to the human intervention. So the human, will be invoked, and that, whoever customer representative is there, they will come into the picture, and they will now directly interact with you as a human. I mean, not as a human, I mean, they will directly interact with you on the chatbot, and they will help you out. So this is how the general logic happens. So here is where the natural language part is understood. So the system is trying to decode what the user has said and what what I am supposed to do, right? So it is going to again extract whatever it needs to perform the respective action, and then it will in itself send the data whichever is necessary to the respective systems to do the respective thing necessary, right? So now what are so these are actually, there are almost in the market, there are thousands of platforms, bot platforms, thousands of them, right? So these are some famous ones I know of. Dialogflow is my all-time favorite. I still use this. I've been using this since the past 4 years, close to now. I have experience with Lex, Lewis, Watson. No, these three I've not used them, but these four I've used. So I would prefer, if you ever are trying to get started, always start with Dialogflow. It is pretty easy, and it'll help you in general. Mostly for all my clients, I have proposed this. I have worked mostly for all the clients on this platform itself. right? So these are some of the platforms. Now coming to the channels. So currently, I think almost a lot of companies have enabled, a lot of these products have enabled, what chatbots onto their platform. So the first one that had come in was mostly Skype and Messenger, and one by one, Telegram opened it, WhatsApp recently started it, and Line, and these are a lot such platforms. I mean, actually, Google Assistant is a combination, Google Assistant and Alexa, even though they themselves are the personal assistants, but you can't directly build them, right? So that is directly built by Amazon. So there is nothing you can build on them directly, but there are, they are built using something like, for example, in the previous one, you saw Amazon Lex. So you can say Alexa is in a way built using Amazon Lex itself, or you can say it's the other way around. They built once they built Alexa, they just separated Lex out of it, and they have separated it as two different platforms. But obviously you can't build on Alexa, but you can build for Alexa. That is a difference, and that will only be available for Alexa. On Lex you can build for any other platforms. And so these are some of the channels, right? So till here, I'll pause first, and before I continue, I want to see how much time do we have before I even move to the next steps. So till here, I know probably I would have bored you guys with some nitty gritty details, but for now, do you guys have any questions that you want to throw at me, which I can answer, or anything that you want to understand in terms of, let's say, how to get into this and so on and so forth? Any questions? Okay.
So Akhil, I would like to know which one is open source that people can just download and
Right.
start using it and
Hmm.
extend it. That will be very good for developers to
Right. Right.
learn. So that is
So,
my question.
open source, actually, all these platforms are mostly open source. The only
Mhm.
difference is, I would say, try not opting for IBM Watson, because the platform is facing issues right now from the past 1 or 2 years. But you can anytime go on and log in to these platforms by Googling, and they are available. None of them are downloadable as such. You can, these are, web based. So you need to
Mhm.
log into their websites, develop your chatbots over there. And, for example, right? So let me just bring up my screen here. So this is actually Dialogflow's platform. So I have a lot of my bots here, right? So we have code on wages, we have customer queries, medical bot, Metrimap, quiz bots, sales support bots, right? So we have a lot of such things. So I can anytime change, build my bot over here. For example, I see these, right? And probably here, what I can also show is we have interfaces. So they have already set pre-built integrations here. So let's say if I opt for web, and
Mhm.
let's see. So what they do is, let's say enable uh, clickable, right? So when you do this, so they themselves have created a small bot. So if I type hi, it says good day, and it responds to my queries accordingly. So they have limitations in terms of buttons and stuff. So they don't display them here, but at least
Mhm.
be able to build a basic customer bot which you can interact with. So probably, if you guys are still interested, I'll probably question that at the end of the session. But this is basically how you build bots. So if you want next steps on how to interact, how to connect and stuff, I'll have a separate session that will be only dedicated to hands-on, where I'll show you how the whole setup is done. Let's say if you have to connect it to a web portal, if you have to connect it to WhatsApp, what are the procedures,
Right.
steps and stuff. So I'll be,
Yeah. So
yeah,
because there are people here belong those people belong to web team,
right,
and there
right.
are people from even digital marketing team as
Hmm.
well.
Hmm.
So no, it will be interesting for them to see how
Right.
they can use this in terms of web side, or in terms of how to integrate that Facebook chat or
Right,
WhatsApp chat
right.
with the site, so that
Hmm. Yeah, no, no, I
it will be more interesting. Yeah.
yeah, definitely. I'll get that thing done. I have a video as well. So what I was planning
Hmm.
to doing is, if I'm not able to cover it today, because it's already
Yeah.
6. So what I'll be doing is I've anyway spoken to, this is just for everybody as well. I've spoken to Kanika already to
Yeah.
set up like a central repository. So what I'll be doing,
Yes.
the presentation that I have today, I'll be uploading that over there with the video recording of whatever has happened in the session today. I'll be posting 2 more videos over there. So that will guide you on how to use Dialogflow to do the entire development process to create a bot, right? So it will be a proper interactive bot. I think if I'm not wrong, I'll go through it. If it is not there, I'll add to it. But you should
Sure.
be also you should also be able to connect it to a web application or something, and
Yes.
interact with it. So I think I have some code reference from one of my pages, so I'll link it over there as well, so that you know
Sure. Sure.
guys.
Sure. Sure.
I do that.
Thank you so much. Yeah,
No.
I don't have any other question right now.
Okay.
So maybe you can plan for one more session, next session
Yeah.
sometimes, for more
Okay.
detailed one,
Hmm.
for technical guys basically.
Sure. Sure.
So that will be, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. Any other questions from anyone?
Is there any tools to set
Hmm.
up this all the things?
When you say set up all the things, what are you referring to?
Tools means like for Laravel, I'm
Hmm.
using Visual Studio.
Hmm.
So is there any tools for installing Dialogflow? Any
Hmm.
tools
No,
like
actually,
Visual Studio
uh,
Sublime or
no.
Notepad plus plus?
Okay, no, no. You mean you want to install, let's say, Dialogflow on these tools, right? Let's say Visual Studio.
Yeah,
What is the purpose? What are you trying to do from that?
like coding.
Okay, okay. No, you can't enable them or install them on the tool. I don't think they have such uh, things done right now, but I think you can develop. I would put it that way. What you will have to do is you will have to understand, let's say, the IDs that you are referring to. If they have, so they obviously have these plugins, what is that, extensions, right? You will need to understand how to develop those extensions, and you from that extensions, what you can do is, if they are allowing you to build something like this, at that time, what you can do is you can opt for that. But I am not sure if they allow you to play around with the UI a lot. But I think you have a scope over there. I think you should try that. I think it should be possible, but I think you will have to do a lot of development to get the setup over there and to manage all that coding related things that you're talking about.
Like WordPress, they have on local host like that.
Right, right. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I think that should be doable. You can give it a shot.
Okay.
Actually, I think
Thank you.
Dialogflow has a WordPress plugin as well, which you can.
Not a dialogue. Anyone.
Yeah, yeah. You can do that with anyone. It's mostly you will have to see how the integrations are supposed to set up, what tools or technologies that they are using to enable the extensions. For example, if I'm just taking an example. Google Chrome's extensions are mostly written either on Go or JavaScript. So any of these platforms can be, integrated with those two languages. But there are some chatbots which you can't do. For example, I think Chatfuel is not a platform that you can use for something like that. If you want to build something like that, you can either go for Dialogflow, Alexa, or Lewis, or even Watson for that matter. But don't use these 4 platforms for that. Try these 4 if you want for that.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
No worries. Any other questions?
No, sir.
Okay. So probably what I'll do today is I'll be wrapping up here. because I've already taken a lot of time. I'll keep this dialogue flow session probably for the next time, where I'll give you a proper hands-on for an hour, where I'll run you through how to create it, how to integrate the chatbot and so on and so forth. So I'll not feed you with more information right now. So I'll call it a session. So do you guys have any other questions right now before I hand it over to Kanika so that she can ask you questions?
So Akhil,
Yeah.
one more question, just as a generic question,
Yeah, go
not
ahead.
a technical one, but generic question. How long it takes to build a chatbot, simple chatbot for a website?
Mm-hmm.
A basic ones. So for example, generally we use contact us page, right,
Right,
for any contact related things.
right.
So suppose this is an e-commerce portal, or it is normal
So I'll
corporate
tell you like
portal.
this.
Yeah.
I'll tell you like this. Today, if I want to build a chatbot for Iris idea with the basic
Hmm.
FAQ questions and a basic contact us form, I can do it by end of today. I mean, today is already
Yeah.
night, but let's say I can just sit for 8 hours straight and I can develop it for you. It shouldn't be a problem. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, I asked this question so that people can understand how helpful it is,
Yeah,
on
yeah,
how easy it is to build, and it use
correct,
straightforward.
correct. No,
Yeah,
definitely.
that's it.
So I'll tell you, I'll tell this to everybody. There was this one session that I took in one of my previous companies, and after I took the session, I'll tell you this: my manager is not a technical person or a developer as such. He was able to go into Dialogflow and create a chatbot for his own website, right? So he was that capable, not because of my teaching, because how simple the platform was. Let me put it that way. So platform is simple. Wherever technical nitty-gritty details will come in, complex logics will come in, only in that particular time you might need a help of a developer like me who is aware of the chatbot thing overall. But apart from that, even today, let's say even Kanika, if she wants to go to the platform today and create a chatbot for you guys in such a way that all HR related overheads, which probably we might be keeping bothering her or Manpreet with, it can automatically be handed over by the chatbot, and she can probably do the actual work which involves her her being more productive on that rather than resolving our day-to-day queries, right? So things of that sort. So anybody can go ahead and create it, give it a shot today or tomorrow, or probably anyways when we meet next, when I am taking a session on chatbots, uh, I will be on the call and we'll be creating the chatbot all on the call then and there, everybody together, right? So let's anyways wait for that day to come. Until that time, if you guys don't have any other questions, then I'll be handing over the mic, which I don't have, to Kanika, and she can take the rest of the call. Yeah, Pradeep, go ahead.
Like, Akhil, one question actually. How secure it is for the users to share the information in the chatbots actually? I mean, like the security factors.
What kind of information are we talking about?
I mean, if as a user, if chatbot is asking me some information related to, I mean, the personal information like contact details and all. Like I am completely new to the website which I am
Right.
accessing,
Right.
and it is asking my email or phone numbers and contact details, right? How secure it will be? I mean,
so two things I'll tell every one of you. First thing is, if before logging in, if a website is asking you to share uh, payment related details, or OTP is still fine unless it is payment related. Don't share any personal details, like let's say card details or any OTP which is related to payments. Don't share it unless you are logged into the website and you are aware that the website is a well-known company. For example, I'll just take another example here, that is HDFC itself. HDFC is a well-known company, and if even today, I think as far as I've tried it, I tried it I think last year, when I was getting into more details, they asked me for my phone number so that I can log in. And once I was able to log in, only after that, it asked me extra details, which was related to probably my policies or my, payment, credit card details or whatsoever, right? So they waited for me to log in and only then asked me for those details. So that is a secure way to do it. There is no problem in that, right? Now, if you are doing this before login, don't try to do that. I won't say it's not secure, but it is not generally advisable you do that in any case. Now, the second thing with this is, if it is a HTTP website, if you today, if you go to your browser, I think all the technical people will know, but I'm not sure about the others. If you go to the website today, any websites today, you should be able to see a lock icon on the top. Do you guys see that? Open, I'm sharing my screen here. So I'll open Chrome as well, just to show. So if you see this lock icon, this clearly states that this website is secure, right? For example, let me open irisidea.com. Right, so this website is secure. I am comfortable today. If a chatbot is coming here, I'll give it my phone number. But if there is a website tomorrow, right? So if you see here, Iris Idea also has a lock icon. So that means this website is secure and no hacker has hacked into the system or something of that sort, at least at the moment. So here also, if you see, there is this icon, but if you see ever an icon that is not, not like properly locked, it's open, that means that website is by default not secure. Don't give your phone numbers, don't give any payment related details, don't even give your name over there, right? I don't exactly have a website right now which doesn't have that, but if this lock is open, don't do anything on the website in terms of sharing your data. But apart from that, to answer your question, Pradeep, until it's your phone number, you can go ahead and share. It is going to be only shared to the company. What the company does with it is completely different. Because of its privacy policy, the issues that we have noticed in the past few years, that is onto the company. That you can't judge whether it is secure from the chatbot. So that is completely depending on the company. If they are sharing the information with someone else, it will be shared with them even after that. But sharing data through chatbot, there is no issue.
Thank you.
No worries.
And one more thought is like chatbots are the smarter version of humans.
No.
Okay.
They are still yet to be.
Yeah.
It'll take ages. It'll take ages. It can't be. If it was, probably every other company would have opted for a chatbot on their websites or in their systems right now.
Human intelligence is superior than machine intelligence, always.
Yes. Remember this, Pradeep, it was built by a human itself.
Yeah.
And I don't know when will there come a day where a chatbot will be able to build another chatbot. Then I don't know what kind of reproduction will we be talking about.
Yeah.
The day will come, Akhil. Don't worry.
Hope not. I would say hope not. If that happens, then I don't know what.
Just kidding.
Living in. Anyway, still. So, any other questions, guys? Okay. So, over to you, Kanika.
Okay, thank you so much, Akhil. Thank you for this. This is the very informative session that we had today. And being a non-IT person, I can totally understand you have given such a fluid example. So it's very correlated to me also, because I have been in this. I have seen all these things, but I was not knowing about all these things. Anyways, I hope that it has added a value to all of us in our knowledge, possibly. So concluding the session, because we are running out of time. So I just want to tell you that I'll be sharing the feedback form in the respective groups. So I hope that you all will fill that feedback form and will let us know what you have felt about this session and what add-ons we can put on with this session for the next time. So concluding this, I just want to acknowledge one more thing. Like we have our new HR intern also. So she's going to help us in HR issues related to your day-to-day issues. If I'm not able to convey the messages, or if you're not able to connect to me, you can easily connect to her. I'll add her also on every groups. So coming over the point, Kisle sir, you want to add anything? Add anything else? Conclude.
Yeah, so it was a great start. Thanks to you all. I mean, Akhil was quite busy, but yeah, he managed to take time out and to give this new initiative a good start. And Kanika and Manpreet, both of you have also a lot of hard work to make sure it happens. So yeah, looking forward for the new future sessions. And I would like to request everyone to take ownership and come up with the topics that they think they can cover. And of course, learning from each other is what is the purpose of this sessions, actually these sessions. That was the purpose to start actually this initiative. So keep that in mind, and let's make it successful for coming weeks. Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone. So, yeah.
Thank you.
So anything else anybody want to ask to us or to Akhil? Anybody, any question coming on in your mind right now? So I hope that you will enjoy the feedback activity first of all. And yeah, the intern name, her name is Pooja. So Pooja, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, please introduce yourself, Pooja. Pooja, hello. I guess there is some technical glitch. Anyways, hello, Pooja. Anyways, so okay. So guys, thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope that you all are looking ahead for your topics also. So we are really excited. Akhil, we are really excited to go with the next session with you, with that digital flow. And yes, of course, with every other topic, you people may approach me for the same. I will help you out how we are going to conduct this. So thank you everyone. You may leave now one by one so that we can conclude this session.
Thank you, Kanika.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Kanika. Thanks.
Okay.